Thanks everyone for coming here today. Today I've got Tal Goldin with me.
Hi.
Hi. So we are going to talk about a recent case you brought. We sometimes call it the age 22 case, but can you just give us a thumbnail on that?
Yeah, so really proud that we brought that case. Um, so what that case did was expand services for students with disabilities in public school, where they used to get kicked out at age 18. Now they get 4 more years to complete high school and earn a regular high school diploma up to age 22. And Montana was the last state in the country that did not expand services beyond age 18. So this lawsuit fixed that.
That's pretty incredible. I can't really wrap my head around what twice as much high school would look like. I didn't really care for school at all generally, but can you what would someone do with twice as much high school?
Yeah, it's a great question. So a couple of things, and I think it's important to think about sort of academic and non-academic. So for some students that are impacted by this, maybe they have a significant intellectual disability, which by definition means it takes them longer to learn new information. And so they may just need that additional time to get through all of the information that they need in order to finish their academic program according to state content standards and earn that regular high school diploma. For other students who maybe don't have an intellectual disability, maybe it just takes them longer to get through material, like a student who maybe has dyslexia or a difficulty with math and dyscalculia. And so, again, they just may need more time to do the same amount of work, and this gives them that more time. But then we think about the other areas where public education is trying to prepare students for life after high school, and that is further education, so a trade school, a 2-year college, a 4-year college, getting ready for a job, and getting ready to live by themselves, live independently. And all the things that come with that. And for a person with a disability, that can be a lot of tasks that you have to learn how to do proficiently, from cooking by yourself, preparing for your day, getting dressed, using the bathroom and taking care of your own personal hygiene, to learning how to ride a bus, all of those things that some of us maybe take for granted, but those are the things that we need just to live in the world. And so the law says that's really the goal of education, of public education, is to prepare students for life beyond high school, and this gives more time for that. So those are a couple of the groups, and there's more I think I'm sure we'll talk about in terms of other groups of students who might benefit from this.
So can just anybody say I'd like 8 years of high school enough? I don't know who would do that if they didn't really want it, but who should be asking for the 8 years? Who should be offered the 8 years?
Yeah, so there's really two groups of people impacted by this settlement, and it starts with, did you earn a regular high school diploma? And a regular high school diploma is a diploma that most students earn that is fully aligned with the state requirements for graduation. So many credits of math and so many credits of English and so many credits of science. If you haven't earned that, then you're still eligible to continue in education, public education, up to age 22. So whichever one happens first, okay. Either you haven't earned a regular high school diploma, but you turn 22, then you're done, or you're not yet 22 and you haven't yet earned a regular high school diploma, you can continue up to age 22, but once you're 22, you're done. So group one is the students from last school year, from the 2024-2025 school year, who, again, didn't earn a regular high school diploma and aren't yet 22, but were kicked out of school. Those students get to go back if they want to and continue to pursue their public high school education up to age 22 or up until they earn that high school diploma. And they would need to re-enroll with the school. The school should have sent them a notice that says, hey, you have a right to re-enroll under this court order. We're hearing that some people haven't received those notices. So if you haven't received those notices, the clock hasn't started ticking, you can still go back and re-enroll. So just affirmatively go back and do that. And again, on our website in an FAQ document, there's a link to a form. But all you have to do is email your school principal, and I'd email the district superintendent and say, I'm a student on an IEP. I'm not yet 22. I haven't earned a regular high school diploma. I was kicked out last year. I'd like to re-enroll. That's group one. Group two is everybody going forward that isn't yet 22, hasn't earned a regular high school diploma. They're still in high school. They just get more time, and that'll be true forever unless the law changes. So those students don't need to do anything to re-enroll. What they may want to do, particularly if they're further along like seniors and juniors, they may want to call an IEP meeting pretty quickly because now you've got 8 years to plan for.
Right. If typically yours rolls around in May, you probably want to ask for one now so you're not getting to the last month of school and just then planning for the next couple of years.
Absolutely. So those are the students who were saying, go ahead and call an IEP meeting. And again, all you got to do is email your school principal, your case manager from your IEP. That'll be in the top right corner of the IEP, their contact information. And in the small district, you might want to also email the superintendent and say, hey, I'd like to call an IEP meeting.
That's great. And, I was really worried people wouldn't be hearing from folks, but I got a great conversation. I had a great conversation with another parent a few weeks ago who pulled me aside and said, like, I didn't know this was happening, and I got a call from they live in a small town, and their students' high school teacher called them up and said, "Have you gotten your notice yet?" And she didn't know what he was talking about, so she went to the mailbox that she usually checks, once or twice a week, and went out there and got the notice. And it was a couple days before school started. They showed up first day of school, signed a piece of paper saying, "Yep, I want to keep going to school," and it was that seamless. So I really hope it was seamless for folks. But if there were any hiccups, please call the State Office of Public Instruction. We'll put the number down there. If you haven't gotten a notice yet and you think you should have because you or your child just graduated at 18 but didn't actually get that regular high school diploma you talked about, where you have algebra 1 and all of that, and instead you were taking like life skills courses. Wasn't that something you were telling me about? Like that's a code for not the typical diploma, but a more a diploma based on your IEP goals, right?
Yeah. And so those are, because schools aren't allowed to sort of out somebody as a person with a disability on their transcript.
Because an employer might call and say, "I want to see the transcript." I've never done that. I've not done that with high school or college or law school transcripts. But I suppose someone might be real old school and say, "I want to see your high school transcripts and make sure you didn't." I don't know what you're going to learn from that. Yeah, I graduated, but yeah.
Yeah. So, or even for military.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
So they're not allowed to put on your transcript, "Oh, you have a disability," or indicate that in some way. And so schools will use codes like life skills or LS, you'll see. And what that indicates is that course was modified for a person with a disability, and it's modified from state standards. So typically when you start to see that, that's probably not a regular high school diploma. That's probably what we call in Montana, we call it a diploma on IEP goals. And what the important part is that doesn't cut you off from continued eligibility for service.
So someone may have actually gotten one of those last June. That still doesn't count for this. You could still move forward with additional education services.
That's right. And so you may not, and also the same thing is true with the diploma. So the diploma is not supposed to flag that you have a disability either. So you may not be able to tell from the face of the document. You may have to look at your transcripts. And then you also, any parent or student with a disability who is covered under IDEA, you have a right for an explanation of the educational records from the school in writing. So you could always just send an email and say, "Hey, did I get a regular high school diploma or not?" And then hopefully the school should respond to that and say, "No, you got a diploma that was modified. You have continued eligibility."
Yeah, I guess that reminds me. I'm not well versed in education law like you are, but I often think about what is our goal in school. And like you said, it's in high school to prepare you for being an adult. So it could look like a lot of things. And if you knew coming in at 14 I've got 8 years to work with here. That's a mind-blowingly different level of services you could get than I've got 4 years to work with here. So yeah, that's starting to make sense.
Yeah, so that's a huge difference. A lot
Yeah.
more time, And one of the things we think about, um, that I like to talk about is what's so important about the education system, and particularly the education system for students with disabilities that this law helps, is all of these other services that people need to be successful, like occupational therapy and physical therapy and social work in schools. Um, they come together in public schools because of this law, this federal law. And it's really the one place in the life of a person with a disability where all of these services are required to be delivered under one roof in a consolidated plan, that works together to achieve the goals that are set out, and that the person sets for themselves. So that's one piece. It's like, oh, we get all these services and you get them in this extended period of time in a single place in a coordinated plan. And then the other piece that's really important, under this federal law, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, is that schools are required to do what we call transition planning, which is a coordinated process of understanding first with appropriate assessments what a student's interests are, what their strengths are, and what their post-high school goals are, and then designing a plan for how they're going to do coursework, get job experiences, and try to move towards those goals even when they're still in high school. And having 8 years versus 4 years to do that, to have that long glide path into post-high school life, formulated transition plan, that's a huge difference. That's a lot more time when you think about, oh, I want to become a welder and I want to get job experiences in welding, or I want to go, lots of schools have they may have a welding program in the high school, but if they don't, they may have cross-listed courses with their local technical school,
Sure.
a 2-year college, and at the end of that, you come out with an AA degree, or darn close to an AA degree. That's huge.
Absolutely. And I do hear from parents that they're worried about this cliff of, you said, all the services come together at school. What's going to happen after school? Having that 8 years to plan, you can bridge to get over that cliff if you're planning for 8 years versus 4 years, rushing up on it pretty quick.
Absolutely, and I think a particular problem. I'm pretty pragmatic in Montana. Is we have adult services are often delivered through what are called Medicaid waivers, and those are services that go beyond sort of traditional health insurance. You might think about Medicaid for, to help targeted groups of people. In this case, people with physical or intellectual disabilities. We have different waivers, and that can provide all kinds of different services, from supporting housing to room and board, to case management services. But Montana doesn't have a lot of funding for these waivers. And so there's a very long wait list, especially for what's called the 0208 waiver for people with developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities. There's often about a 7-year wait list. And so having that more time in school where these services are delivered and you get to continue to progress while you're waiting for that to come off that wait list, that's also really important.
Absolutely. Now we're getting into an area I know a little more about, a little more comfortable. And one of the key service types that people often don't think of as healthcare that's delivered by Medicaid is something called habilitation. And that's, if you think about the word habit, it's laying down good practices through learning. And it's a lot like school, but it's in the real world. And I can see a lot of the life skills type things you do in high school look a lot like what habilitation could look like in an adult setting. So having real intensive experts around you to help you continue to build as many skills is exactly what we try to do throughout the entire life of someone with an intellectual disability who's receiving Medicaid services. So this seems really in keeping with everything we know about the best practices in supporting people with developmental disabilities. Is all human beings are lifelong learners, and people who have intellectual disabilities and learn differently may need some specialized support in going through that human journey of being a lifelong learner.
Yeah, that's so important. And I mean, I wouldn't be doing this work if I didn't believe that everybody could learn and everybody could learn throughout their life. We all have the ability to continue to grow and acquire new skills. And it's so important that we support that for everyone.
Well, and that's why I am just so proud of the work you have done and that the team that you put together, because you put together a national team to bring this case, were able to double the amount of high school delivered to students who have individualized education programs. And that's just, to think about. I think as a lawyer, I myself am like, I just want to do good, and to know like this could be a once in a career opportunity to do that amount of good. And I'm glad you're here doing it all the time. Like this is just one case, but it is the type of case that I think any lawyer would love to do once in their career, is completely transform Montana's education system for students with disabilities. It's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a joy, and it just feels like an honor to be able to represent these students, and that they trusted us to do this work. It truly is an honor.
Now, I know you did a live question and answer for people if they were interested in like, how do I sign up for this? And we're now well into it. It should be automatic. Your school should have already talked to you about this, but if they haven't, you can check out that other video. We'll link to this one if you want more in-depth info. But we're now in the heart of the school year. Already had my kids' first parent-teacher conferences last week, so we're in full swing of things. Schools should know how to do this, but if you do have any questions, folks can call the State Office of Public Instruction or us if they have more questions. But hopefully your local school has gotten the memo, literally, and is implementing this.
Yeah, and literally there was a memo. Part of this litigation required the Office of Public Instruction to issue a guidance document. And so they've already sent that out to every school in Montana that is covered by this resolution. They've done some training, and so I hope that schools are complying. If not, if parents or students are hearing from their schools, you're not eligible or we're not going to re-enroll you, the first step is to call the Office of Public Instruction Early Assistance Program, and we have the information on that on our website. And there's an FAQ document that we created that's also on the website. And if for some reason OPI isn't able to resolve that, then people can call us.
Great. Well, I'd love to talk with you on another podcast just about advocacy, and because this is one type of case, but we do other types as well, and cover other issues. So someone may have watched this and said, no, that doesn't really impact me. I already graduated high school, but now I've got this issue. How does one go about bringing a lawsuit? And spoiler, lawsuit might not be the right answer, but we can talk about why would someone pick a lawsuit? Why would someone try to run a bill? Why would someone talk to their local case manager and try to resolve things that way? So I really appreciate getting to talk to you, and I'm sure the audience is looking forward to hearing more.
Great. Thanks, David.
Thanks.